Apollo says, guys, if Nev Campbell returns, doesn't that give away that the new killers will be after her this time?
No,
Nope,
no, 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 no,
not
no,
at
no.
all.
And if that's the case, I'm not going to be happy. Like, I'll watch it,
Right?
but I'm not going to be as interested. I'm really not, because we've seen that happen 4 times now. How many people want to kill Sidney Prescott? Let's get
Yeah,
over.
that's always been my thing too.
I think
Right.
we're over Sydney.
Actually,
I want to
yeah.
see her return, but just not
Oh, yeah.
the focus of the killers.
To add to this, how do we think that now that the film is being filmed in Canada, that has any bearing on Nev returning?
I don't.
Or do you think it's just because I mean she's from Canada, she resides
Right.
in Canada a lot, so you know, I mean it's in her backyard now. Also, I made a video about this yesterday. Would you like it to be instead of Woodsboro? Because I was saying, like, why don't we be creative and get some like scenic shots? You know, maybe like I even said, like, what if it actually does take place in Canada and like the 4 survivors want to take a trip to Montreal or something, you know, and maybe they're in like a cabin or something. Like, let's switch it up, like because
Right.
Scream has always been closed, confined, isolated. Like, think about it. You always had the small town of Woodsboro, indoors shots, you know, inside houses, you know, or it was a back lot of Hollywood, again, confined
Right.
space, or it
Right.
was, you know, whatever. It was Windsor College. The only scenic shots you got were that of like courtyards that were really at like UCLA. Like, you know, like you never really got, we've never really had like something like, how cool would it be to have like an epic chase scene where like Ghostface is chasing somebody through the woods? You know,
Right.
and you have that
Yep.
like heart pounding, like just like moment. Like, give us some nice scenic shots. You know, maybe like something like I Know What You Did Last Summer with Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, where she's running through the. You know, that was one of the best chase scenes ever. You know,
Yeah.
and she's just trying to get away, and then right when you think she's gonna get away, boom, she gets taken out. Like, I would love to see some new freshness, some new
Me too.
breathness into
Yeah.
the Scream franchise, because they've all been relatively the same.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm hoping, because I don't want to just go to Canada, film the movie there just for the sake of like, like, you might as well utilize the beautiful landscape and the, you know, and the monuments and things like that. Like, utilize
Yeah.
your surroundings. You could build a backlot in Burbank, California of Woodsboro if you really want to do it in Woodsboro again. Like, let's venture out somewhere else. You know, so I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, let me ask you this, Fate. Would you be interested in seeing a Scream movie that takes place like all in the same night? Like, because that's something we've never seen that before, and I think there would be problems with that. But I think it would also be interesting if you worked around it. The problem that would fall into is it might turn into a stereotypical slasher where you just have all the characters separating for whatever reason. They get killed one off when they separate, and then it's just kind of turns into a typical slasher. But I think if you write it a certain way, you could do it in an interesting and new way that's not the same like setup or formula as some of the other movies. Because I think
Right.
5 deviates a little bit from the typical formula. It's so much more fast paced, but it is essentially a similar story. Not quite the same, but similar. If you did it all in the same night, it might be interesting. It's not something I'm typically leaning towards, but it's a theory that I did want to suggest in a new video. So I was.
I think
curious
it.
what you
I think
guys
it
thought about
depends
that.
on how it's executed, how it's done. You know what I mean? Because like they could probably do it because Scream 5 was so fast paced. They could get like it would actually make sense. But like I was even saying like in one of the videos that I made yesterday, like I said, like what if you know you had because it's very likely Scream 5 is going to bleed into 6 in some capacity, killers, so on and so forth. So like what happens if you know the main 4 that survived, they have like they go on a trip with a group of friends, you know, and they fly there, and one of them has the killer, or the killer is aware, you know, or you know, whatever. I mean, it's not hard to write the story of them traveling. It's not like people never travel. Like, so them being in Canada or something, I don't think is a hard explanation. You know, maybe they're going to school there, you know, and it would make sense. They want to get out of Woodsboro, you know. It's like I mean, Sam was already out of Woodsboro, and her whole thing was like, let's run. Another thing is too is like, what if you did start out in Woodsboro, the killings start happening, and like what we saw in Scream 5, where Sam's like, we need to just get out of here. What if Sam just like, what happens if they already had a trip planned and they just like jump on a plane and go to Canada thinking they're safe? And then, but like one of the killers is one of their friends, you know, so they like told them or whatever, and they just wait. Like, and they think that they're safe in this town. Like, we'll let the Woodsboro thing die out. Like, we as an audience, we think like, oh, like they actually did this smart thing. Holy shit! And then, boom, the killings start happening. Maybe somebody like Chad dies or something, and you're just like, what happened? Like, and you just don't expect it. And like, it's just like this, and it's all in like the same night. Like you were saying, like you could do something like that. I just want to see some fresh breath put into the franchise, because they've all been roughly the same movies. Like,
Right.
Slight variations here and there, but they're pretty much the same thing, and
Right.
I even like, to touch on your point, Jake, too, is that having like a typical slasher, because Scream has always been the opposite of that in many ways. I don't think being a typical slasher would be a bad thing for once, if done in the proper manner,
Yeah.
Because
But
it's
I
still
think
got to be
Scream-
meta. It's still got to criticize the genre in some kind of
Yeah.
way or capacity. But
Right.
like, let's say they set it in a log cabin out in the like obscure winter wonderland of Montreal. I mean, they're filming it
Yeah.
during the summer, so it's not
Summer,
gonna be,
right.
Yeah, it's not
Like
gonna
a
be-
ski resort or something.
Yeah, something like along those lines, and they're trapped there. They have no phones for whatever reason, yada yada yada. And we kind of criticize like problematic situations with a cabin in the woods type of horror story. I don't know. It's a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly
I
wish
agree.
it had been filmed in the winter, because a scenario of a snowed in, again, I like, I'm a kind of a fan of the closed in, the Agatha Christie model, the closed in environment, locked box, and everyone's in a room, one of you is the killer, those kind of things. So if they did it in the summer, or not in summer, if they did it in the winter, you could have had it snowed in.
Yeah.
They could have been going on vacation, like Fate said, and going to get away from everything, from California, and get into the snow, and no one's going to get us in Canada, and then right.
That's my point, though. But the beauty of doing something like that is Scream has already shown, because Ghostface is anybody, right? And we've seen Ghostface go everywhere. We've seen him in Ohio. We've seen him in Hollywood. So like, and the beauty is, it's not like a Jason where it's isolated to Crystal Lake, or a Leatherface and it's isolated to Texas. And it's like, as long as you don't go to those places, you're fine, Or Freddy, as long as you're not on Elm Street dreaming about him, you're good. Like don't worry. The beauty about Ghostface is, like, in reality, you're not safe anywhere, because Ghostface could go anywhere, and it's usually
it could be
somebody
anybody
close to them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's usually somebody close to them, and I love that concept. That's why I would like to see them sort of branch out and let's do some creative stuff. Like, you're filming in Canada, why not have the movie take place in Canada? Like, I don't think anyone in the States is going to be like, oh, it's in Canada, this is stupid. Like, no, I think, as long as you tell a good story.
There's someone
agree.
that feels that way, though. There's always one person that is like, Canada, I'm out. Screw this. Like, what?
This is not an American movie.
Damn it!
America!
Yeah.
But I have to be honest with you, though, and I love talking about, like, if we had a consultation with Guy and James, the writers, what we could tell them. But having said all that, I think what we're going to actually get, and maybe I'll ask you guys this question. That's what we want. What do we think we'll really get? And I'll start us off, because I think we're going to get Woodsboro in Canada. That's what we're going to get. This is going to be, and that's why they're filming it in the summer. Because it's gonna have a very much the look of California, and I think that's what we're getting is Woodsboro 3.0, or what is it, 6.0, I guess now, or no, because 2 wasn't, whatever, it doesn't matter.
1,
you do the
4,
math.
and 5.
4 and 5, yeah, exactly. So thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna get that in Woodsboro again, and it's gonna be sunny and. It's going to be California. They're going to try to make it look California as much as they can. And it's going to be residential suburbs. I think it's going to be a lot like 5, honestly, because Radio Silence shoots such tight shots.
Yeah.
And 5 was shot so tight, like just right there.
Yeah.
Very little.
You can't really tell where you're at. Yeah.
You can't tell.
Yeah.
No, you cannot tell, really. And there's residential suburban neighborhoods everywhere. That's easy to do. So because they didn't, I made a video about this because I said because they didn't put a landmark or something in this movie where it's like, oh, if you're in Woodsboro, that has to be there. They didn't do that, so it could literally be anywhere. So I think we're going to get Woodsboro again. in Canada. That's just my thoughts. What do you guys think?
Can I suggest something? Because
Of
this
course.
is something I brought up in my video today, was when they were filming Scream 2, it's supposed to take place in Ohio, right? Well, the
Yes.
the locations for that movie were filmed in California and Atlanta, which I can
Yep.
speak from experience and say neither of those places look anything like Ohio. So
It's true.
if they did film it in Montreal, that looks a lot more like Ohio. Like I've never even been there, and I can tell you, yes, it looks way more like Ohio. So could we be returning to the familiar setting of Windsor, Ohio, the college town from the second film? Now, I know some people are against this. I already saw some comments saying like, well, they already did that in Scream 2. This is essentially Radio Silence's Scream 2. So
Right.
why would they
Right.
why would they copy that? Why would they do that again? And it gets a lot of people worried that maybe they're going to reprise some plot beats from the second film as well. I hope that's not the case. But if they want to go back to Windsor, that would be cool. I'd be down for that.
I've talked about this a lot. Not going back to Windsor, but just doing the college setting again. I don't like the idea of Windsor, like bringing back to Windsor, because it was like, why would they all go to the same college in a different state that Sidney Prescott went to? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but the college setting, I think, is a real possibility, because not just that college. It's not like, oh man, I can't believe who goes to college. Like everyone goes to college. You know what I mean? Like not everybody, but there's enough people that go to college to where the storyline makes sense. They could do it they could even do it in a college in Montreal. You know, maybe they're going to college out there or something like that, and that would be cool. And it makes sense. Not just that,
It would
but
make sense, yeah.
yeah, and people got to remember the four of them, because like I've like I said, I've talked about this a lot, like in live stream stuff like that. People always ask, like, why would the four of them go to the same college together? And I'm like, lots of people do that. Like,
And
Yeah,
also,
right.
they're
especially in
bound,
small
Absolutely.
towns.
they're
Yeah,
bound
they're-
by trauma too. Think about
exactly. I
that.
was just gonna say
Exactly.
that. And
Yep.
they're all related. Like
Yes.
Sam and Tara
Yep.
are sisters who
Yeah.
it makes sense that they would go together. Then you have the
Yep.
Meeks twins. Like
Right,
they're gonna go
exactly.
wherever one of them goes. Like you
Yep.
just have an easy tie-in.
Now,
Yep.
here's the thing about Sam. She's like canonically 25, right? 25,
Right.
26. So
Yes.
I think the reason she follows Tara, because let's say Tara, Chad, and Mindy, who are all about the same age, like seniors in high school, I'm assuming, they all go to the
Assuming that.
same. Yeah. So like they all go to the same college, let's say. Sam is following Tara, which
Yes.
would make sense with the plot, because remember at the end of Scream 5, like there's a whole subplot in Scream 5 where it was like they don't have a very good relationship, and now Sam is like, listen, I will protect you. We're sticking together forever now. So like
Right.
that would make
Yep.
sense if Sam followed
Sam
her
says
to college. Yeah,
Sam
exactly.
says that in
Yeah.
the
Yes.
movie. She
Yes,
says,
she
"I'm
does.
never gonna leave you again.
Yeah,
Wherever
exactly.
you go, I'll go."
So
There
like
you go.
that works perfectly with a college sequel, in my
Exactly.
opinion.
Yep.
It does.
And
So-
that could work good in the story too, because the actresses could really have a lot to work with as far as their interaction and how it could be a good thing, but it also could be
Yeah.
kind of not such a great thing. You know, you can see Sam
Yeah.
being overprotective and all that type of stuff. I think that could work well for their character
Yeah.
development.
Well, and the beauty
Oh,
is
yeah.
there's no age limit to go to college. Like Sam could
Yeah.
go to
I mean, she
could go to
could,
college.
yeah.
Sam
Yeah.
could go to college at 25, 26. Maybe she
Yep.
wants to get her life back on track. I mean, it's
Right.
not like she was working. She was some CEO or something like that. She was
Right.
living in Modesto, working at a bowling alley.
Yeah,
like,
she
it's
ran
not-
off.
Yeah,
you
and she
know.
ran away.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
so maybe now she's back together. Tara, Mindy, and Chad want to go to this college or whatever. Sam's like, I'll do that. Like, why don't I go do the same thing? And now you have that. I just think the college setting makes a ton of sense. It's easy to do. It's creative. Not just that, but I know a lot of people have said, well, they already did that in Scream 2. I don't want to see them do that again. Scream 5 was 96, just modernized. Like
Right.
that. Like if you really boil down what Scream 5 was, it was in many ways. I mean, the killers were basically the same. The story plot was almost the same. Like they had direct carbon copy scenes, everything.
Right.
I don't know about that.
Well,
but
I mean, like
was.
little scenes,
I don't know,
like when
carbon
Amber
copy
goes,
scenes.
when Amber opens up the door to the
There were
basement.
slight
That's
there were
those
slight
little things.
variations. There were
Yeah.
slight variations, but if you held those scenes hand in hand, it was almost identical. They just subdued your expectation because you expected,
Right.
oh, this is the scene where Tatum goes down the stairs and gets killed, and it's the exact scene, like it's the exact same setup, the exact same everything. The only difference is she doesn't die. I mean, there was
Right.
countless scenes like that throughout this film. They were carbon copy scenes.
Yeah.
They just changed the expectation of those scenes. And so
Right.
what I'm saying is that I could see them going that route where Scream 6 is a modernized version of Scream 2. you know, and like kind of going that route, and it's immediately meta, it's that kind of thing, so on and so forth. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility given what we've seen, because I mean, like I said, Scream 5 was very reminiscent of the past Scream films. I mean, you could argue it was a mixture of 96, Scream 4, and then like Scream 2 could be a mixture of, you know, Scream 2 and Scream 3. You know, and you kind of have that nice little blend. I just think that
I just want them to tell an original story, man. That's my
Yeah,
my
man.
biggest
Yeah.
thing. Like
Yeah.
I
Right.
felt like there was a lot of originality in Scream 5, and that's why I liked it so much. Like the killers
There was.
had such a modern motive, which I know people didn't love about the film.
Right.
But that's actually something that I enjoyed. I was like, okay, this isn't exactly the same reason why every killer in the past went out and started killing. So that's cool. I'm like, okay, I'll
Yeah.
take it, man. That's sweet. And I personally, I sympathize with the motive. I think it's pretty. No, I don't sympathize with it, but I mean, I think it's cool. And I don't agree with Richie or Amber at all. Actually, that's why I liked it so much. Was it showed something so toxic and so real that we face in everyday life and movie talk, and then it just took that to an extreme. And that's
Yeah.
what's so cool about it to me. So I don't know. Hopefully, we get something along those lines again in Scream 6, but a little different.
yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
I
think
have
I was just going to say one last thing on that. I think it comes down to, and we don't. I know none of us know this answer, but only Radio Silence knows it right now, and Guy and Jason or James. But
Bye, Flash.
you see it, Flash. Thanks for joining.
Later, Flash.
My question is, and just your opinion, what you think right now. We saw the homage to Scream 1 in '96, right? Well, we just talked about it. There's definitely, and I think a lot of that might have been as a respect to Wes. Like they really wanted to honor the past, what started what brought them to making films, and they did an amazing job, I thought, with what they did with the past and the legacy. But now my thought is this, guys: are they going to try to continue that same homage, however you want to say it, to the past, and say, okay, we're intentionally wanting to take a Scream 2 approach, and we want to sprinkle in some of those scene setups like we saw in the 5 to 96. Do they want? I guess my question is: do you think they're going to continue that mentality, or do you think they're going to say, we've done our homage to the past, now we're going to we're still going to be a Scream movie, but we're going to now really focus on the future. We're not really going to look so much to the past with the little wink winks and that we saw, which were really great. I love them. So I don't know. I'm just throwing the opinion out. And Knight, I want to ask you first. What are your thoughts? I mean, I know we don't know, but just take a shot. What do you think, man? What are your feelings on it?
Oh man, I don't know.
It's hard.
I mean,
I know.
it is hard, man, because I mean, everything that we're talking about. This is the thing for me. Scream 6, it could go, well, I guess two basic ways. One, where things are going on that we would have never expected, kind of like what we started talking about, like a new setting, a new way that goes. You know, I've even have people on social media talking to me about Ghostface just being different, like the way the attacks happen, more stalking, you know, scenes where you see Ghostface actually, watching the victim before he kills them or attacks them or whatever. Like a lot of differences like that. So we could go down that road, which would be really interesting, right? I'd like to go down that road. But we also, like, even just talking about this whole idea of Windsor and the college setting and, the four of these surviving characters sticking together and how that happens. And it's almost like Fate was saying, almost like some of those same steps of like Scream 2. And don't get me wrong, I'd rather go into something new, but there's a little part of me, I don't know how little, but there's a part of me that's like, man, that actually would be kind of cool to see how they twist that old vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the whole idea of Sydney coming back, how that's going to work, Stu, what's going to happen with Stu or what won't happen with Stu. Billy, what's going to happen with Billy? Is Sam going to continue to go down that dark path? A lot of interesting things that could happen. And I'm going to be honest, I have no idea how they're going to do it. I don't know which path. I don't know which path they're going to take, because I think either way, they could make it work. I may not I may not totally be 100% on board with the decision to retread old territory, but I think these filmmakers have shown that they've got some great talent. So it's but I to be quite honest, it's like 50-50 as far as which direction they're going to go, you know.
Yep. And as Fate always says, execution, right? I mean, and it's so true. Because even if they want to pay homage like they did in 5, they thought they did a great job. I mean, if they do it like that in 6 to 2, I'm fine with it. I'm like, you know what? That was great. They tipped their hat to the past, but they made it their own.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick. Knight just had something. He said something that dawned on me, that triggered a thought in my head. Hey, how you doing?
Thank you, Flat.
Appreciate you subscribing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
But so they're doing it in Montreal, right? What if this film takes place in Chicago where Sydney lives? Because Sydney lives in Chicago. So
that's a good point.
What if the way for her to get incorporated into the film is it takes place where she lives? And, it's not about her directly, but just, because I don't want them to go backwards.
That's also a really good theory because you're also you just brought up something about this is something I didn't even think about until you said it, Fate, was that Nev Campbell in real life does live in Canada. So let's say that they use Montreal as a Chicago setting theoretically, and that's where she lives right now. Yeah, that would work really well because it's meta. It's meta to have that setting be somewhere where she actually lives, and then to go make the story all about a Ghostface killing happening right where Sidney Prescott lives again. My only problem with it is I just don't want them to make it about Sidney again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point. That's my point exactly. I don't want them to rehash. So to me, you tell the story for the survivors to be in Chicago for whatever reason, and because it's in Chicago, therefore Sidney has to get involved. Because it's like in her backyard type thing. I think that would be an easy way to incorporate her. Maybe they all go to school in Chicago. So you get a combination of the college setting and the same thing. All that stuff. I don't even know if everyone knows that she lives in Chicago. They don't actually blatantly say that. The only reason we know she lives in Chicago is because of the landmark and where she's running and stuff like that. That's in Chicago. So and then I think there was an article or something that came out where they said she's living in Chicago now with kids and stuff. So, I that's something that I think is a possibility.
Yeah, I can see that happening to bring her back into it because they clearly want her to come back. I feel like they wouldn't have decided to yes, you can make the argument they probably want to film it in Canada because it's going to be a little cheaper. What's up, Valerie? I'll say hi too.
Valerie.
I know that was directed towards Steven, but what's up?
It's all good.
You know what? Screw it. I'll say hi too.
It's like that moment that Jake comes and he's like, "Hey."
So they're Craven question. Jake's like, "Yes."